This is Donna.
And David.
And we want to welcome you to our creative conversations. I have to find myself taking a little bit of a breath, slowing down, because we just recorded positive conversations. And I talked about LSU winning the national championship last night. And we talked so fast. We're always trying to beat the clock on that one because it's 20 minutes and we both like, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And we're like looking at how much time is left. And let's say one more thing and one more thing. But wait, I want to do And by the end, there was like 3 or 4 different, threads that we wanted to pick up in the next podcast. Right. But we really talked so fast. I had to go take a sip of water and just breathe.
Well, in this one, we get to breathe.
Yes,
a little bit.
We have the hour, so
and just talk about stuff. This is Creative Conversations, as Donna already said, with David and Donna. I'm David, that's Donna. We already said that.
We did. He's repeating us.
Yes.
But
well,
okay.
I'm leading into, I want to say that this is Creative Conversations. It's the weekly podcast starring David and Donna. I'm David.
And I'm Donna.
And every week we get together and we talk about all things creative, all things pop culture, all things about staying creative, which is the name of this channel, the name of our business. So we'll talk about anything that has to do with the world of creativity, whether that be film, TV, playwriting, video games, books, novels, or anything that
Donna
is almost always working on something. It feels like so. And I am too. But she's always working on like a new play that's coming up, or coming up next week is the yearly variety show for the theater that you run, and for the theater classes you run. And not long after that, you got a whole other play. And we've talked a lot about that, building up to it, because every week it's like more and more things. So that's what this podcast is. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you know when it's uploaded. But you can expect a new Creative Conversations every single Sunday around noon. And you can expect a new Positive Conversations every single Saturday around noon. Right now, the podcast that we recorded where we talk about LSU and Joe Burrow winning the national championship in our Positive Conversations, that is already up on the channel. Definitely go check that one out. It'll be the video posted right before this one.
Cool.
Yeah, so welcome. Glad you're here.
Welcome. Yes, and to nice long introduction.
Yes. Well, I just don't remember the last time we actually explained what it is that this is.
I hear you.
And,
well, when we did our very first podcast, we were just talking about why we were doing the podcast in general, and I've thought about that because we were talking about all the ways we want to bring people in and help them be creative, which is still our goal, but it's interesting to just watch where the wind blows us, where the direction takes us, because the Positive Conversations is now a spin-off of the Creative Conversations, and it's just so exciting to just watch things develop.
It is, because the more we do Positive Conversations, the more it becomes not even really a spin-off. It's just its own thing that we can keep going. We'll probably have different audiences.
I think so.
Which I like that. I want to diversify up our stuff as much as possible. I've been really trying to think a lot about what to do with our YouTube channel and the content we make, and I think we're in a good right track.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's jump right into the topics for the day. Now, there isn't a whole lot going on, but this week, just like 1 or 2 days ago, the nominations for this year's Oscars came out, and as I was telling you right before the show started, Joker is the film with the most nominations this year. It has 11 different nominations, including Best Picture and Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor.
He already won for what?
I Walk the Line, playing Johnny Cash.
He was really good.
He was very good. Joaquin Phoenix has not made a bad movie.
Yeah.
He's very particular about his scripts. Did you know he was who was going to play Doctor Strange instead of Benedict Cumberbatch?
I cannot see that at all.
It's very strange, isn't it?
Well, I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, I hear you, but he just so looks like the character.
Right, you're right.
Wow.
I 100% agree. That's who I wanted to play.
Yeah.
But if Joaquin Phoenix, I bet he would have
done amazing. He would have blown it out of the water, but just when I heard...
so many amazing things.
Yeah, when I heard Benedict Cumberbatch was playing that part, I was like...
That hit, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. But I would have loved Joaquin, but, I love everything that he's in. He's such a great actor. And I saw Joker. You have not seen Joker, because... doesn't really interest you. You're not you're not really a comic book person.
Not
but
really.
that's okay. You have seen Endgame though. Yes, Avengers Endgame. That got an Oscar nomination. They got 2 Oscar nominations. No. one Oscar nomination. One for Best Special Effects.
Huh, I bet some people were...
I myself included, part of me kind of feels like Joker got 11. Mm-hmm. And Avengers Endgame got 1.
Well, and it's the highest grossing
film of all time.
In history, right. So,
of all time, yes.
Oh, I'm looking at... I pulled this up on my phone because I had forgotten, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, how many nominations?
It got a few. Brad Pitt for Best Supporting Actor. I think it got a Best Picture nomination as well.
And Leonardo for Best.
And Leonardo for Best.
Okay.
Which, you could argue that Brad Pitt could be up there for Best Actor, but I see what they're doing there. You gotta pick... You can't... Yeah.
I was wondering when they said supporting. That's the only thing I heard on the radio was the list of who got for supporting... who got nominated for supporting. I was like... What? So right. I was surprised that they put it like that, but I didn't see the movie. And you do feel like Leonardo had a bigger role than Brad?
I think he had a bigger role, but Brad Pitt was not far behind. I would say they were both leads. Like, they were the two leads of the film. Everyone else is side characters, but I can forgive it because literally in the film Brad Pitt plays his supporting person. So yeah. I'll accept it. I understand why they did it, and I think it's Excuse me. I think they're very worthy nominations. I love that movie. I think it's not as universally loved by critics as the other films that were nominated. 1917 was nominated.
I had that pulled up. Excuse me.
I have not seen it, but you know what it is?
Yes, 1917 is a war story about they needed to communicate something about don't go forward with the attack because there's no reason to attack now. They didn't have any way to get the message except for people running.
Right, yeah. So it's a war, and it is shot. It is not shot with one shot, but it's edited to look like one full camera shot the whole time.
The whole movie?
The whole movie, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it is about 2 hours long, and the story takes place over the course of 2 hours. So it's like from start to finish, it is filmed and edited like... It is a single camera shot, like a first person.
These guys. It's two, I think it's brothers. I'm not for sure, but I know it's
I'm not
guys
sure.
Running to try to make sure that they get the message in time to avoid the attack.
Right, and this is during World War One.
Yeah.
When this movie takes place, I've heard it's an excellent movie. So.
Right. So
what's
we can
next
go through the list.
Yeah,
Ford versus Ferrari. I have not seen, but I heard people talk about it.
Yeah, I have not seen that. I wanted to see that. It looks amazing. It's about Ford versus Ferrari. It stars Christian Bale, Matt Damon. It looked really great. I never saw it.
No, is it about them early, trying to compete for some type of...
So it is Ferrari kind of ruled the racing world. So Ford was like, this is a true story, and Ford was like, we're going to build a race car. And they hired this guy, the guy that Matt Damon plays, to design it, and they hired Christian Bale to be the race car driver. But it's an interesting dynamic because Bale is kind of like, the guy that Christian Bale plays was kind of like, hard-headed, not a hothead, not really the best to work with, but he's the best man for the job, classic story and that sort of thing. And it's about them. I think they had 90 days to design the car that is going to beat Ferrari in a race, which is Ford. That's the first time Ford ever did anything like that. So really fascinating story. I've assumed they won. I don't know.
I was wondering that because why would they make the movie otherwise?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who knows?
I guess so. What's next on the list?
Next one's Joker, which we've talked about some, but you told me about this. So this is just somebody's take on a character, not in a particular universe, just the character.
Right. So right now there's the current DC universe with Batman, Superman, and stuff like that, right? And there was a Joker starring Jared Leto. There was a Joker in Suicide Squad that was played by Jared Leto. It was the Joker that is in correlation with the Batman played by Ben Affleck. And then over here, over on the side somewhere, there's Todd Phillips making this movie called Joker that does take place in Gotham, just like from the comic books. And Thomas and Martha Wayne, Bruce Wayne's parents, are in the movie. And Thomas Wayne plays a big role. And it's about this guy named Arthur Fleck, who completely invented for the movie, nothing to do with the comic book, who becomes Joker. It takes elements from comic book stories about the Joker, but it is a completely made up, own interpretation of the character that takes place over here in this corner, not connected to any universe. It really, there's nothing. I mean, you could argue that maybe it is. There's the new Batman film being directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson. It might end up taking place in the same universe. I don't know. They haven't said, But as of right now, no, the Joker exists solely on its own about the character of Joker.
I don't know if time frame matters when you're talking about universe, but is it before, after? Does that matter? You know what
I would say, I would think it matters because, well, in this context it would be because this takes place in the 80s. And so theoretically, by the time, let's say Batman v Superman and Justice League take place in 2016 when they came out, and this took place in the 80s, and Bruce Wayne is a child when it happens, then I guess you could say that by 2016, he's grown up and it's the Batman that we see, and this just takes place in the 80s, and then there's the Jared Leto Joker is inspired by Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and that's where that Joker comes from. People have argued that that's what it is, and said that's what it is. So maybe.
Possibly the concept is the backstory of just how...
Possibly.
But even though... And I don't know that much about it, but don't we know how the Joker became the Joker?
In the comic books we do, yes.
And that's never been shown or referred to or...
No, it's never been really put on film. In the original Batman movie, directed by Tim Burton, just Batman 1989, and starring Jack Nicholson as the Joker, he plays this character, Jack Napier, who is made up. That was the first time Jack Napier was invented, and he fell into a vat of chemicals and became the Joker, which is how the Joker becomes a Joker. He falls into a vat of chemicals. In the comic books, yes. Okay. Falls into a vat of chemicals. But in the comic books, it's a bit more complicated. So there was this criminal gang called the Red Hood Gang, and there was this guy who was the Red Hood. He was the leader of the gang, and he was a normal dude who just ran a gang and it was like they robbed places. And in a run-in with Batman accidentally pushed this Red Hood guy into the vat of chemicals, and that became the Joker. And then now he's the Joker. People have taken the Jack Napier name from the 89 and said that's his name. There's another interpretation. It's a bunch of interpretations, really. There's one where this is the Killing Joke, which is what Joker's mostly based off of, if anything, where he was a stand-up comedian, and one bad day, like, his wife and child were killed, and it just drove him insane, and he became the Joker. And
is that the Why So Serious monologue that I've heard?
The Why So Serious comes from the other interpretation of the Joker in the 2008 Dark Knight film. That's the Christian Bale one, and that's where Heath Ledger played the Joker, and we got no backstory for that guy, but that's where the Why So Serious thing comes from, and truthfully, that Joker is nothing like any of the Jokers we've seen from the comic books, but it was very popular, people really liked it. So that's where that goes from. So what I'm sure you're taking from this is that it's all over the place.
Okay.
Who knows?
So to change to back what we were talking about, which is the Academy Awards, I have not seen the film. So what is it about this particular film that you think the Academy likes? Because you said it got a pretty low rating, 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Right,
yeah. I think it's a very, I liked the movie. It's very very artsy. Okay. It's very much like it's a Joaquin Phoenix film. So there's just this one scene where he's in a bathroom just dancing, like doing this for like 5 minutes, and it's like, what the frick is that? But it's very artsy. It's very political. So that always gets the Academy going. It has a lot to say about politics and the state of people. It's a very psychological film, like an interesting character study. All the things that the Academy usually looks for, it checks those boxes.
Okay, so do you feel like the person who put this film together was checking boxes? Are we checking boxes to get an Academy Award?
I think you could say that. I'm not going to be so bold to claim that Todd Phillips purposely did that, but I think it'd be fair to say that, people have said, Oscar bait is what a movie's called. Right. Oscar bait. And this was totally an Oscar bait movie.
All right, so if it is that, does that negate its, what is the word I'm looking for?
Credibility?
Yes, thank you.
That's a good question. I didn't think about that. If it's trying really hard, should you even be like, yeah, we get it, you did great, but you did it on purpose. You went out of your way to make this for me. That's a good point. I would say no, but maybe, because the Academy kind of makes some bonehead decisions sometimes from the point of view of just an audience member, and it makes these decisions that are obviously based on what is Oscar bait. giving the Joker a Best Picture nomination because it's so politically driven, not necessarily based on the quality of the film. So,
but was it a quality film?
I'd say it was a quality film. I think it was a very good movie.
So I
enjoyed it a lot.
You can look at it as an Oscar bait movie and a quality movie.
Yes.
But you could also see movies in both of those separate categories, but not in the other. So, for example, a movie that you see as quality, you would realize that it's not an Oscar possibility. It just doesn't have the check boxes.
The check boxes, yeah.
And then some are just so obviously like out there, like all they're trying to do is get the Oscar that nobody would even. They don't find it even watchable. Right,
that's a good point. You know, like I don't like the Revenant, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
I don't even know what that's about.
It's about it's about this guy, like the American modernist, and he gets betrayed by his friends and lost just in the middle of the wilderness in the winter with no supplies, nothing, and it's about how he survives, crawls his way back to town, and survives. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
And that's his best actor.
Yeah, that's what he won an Oscar for Best Actor.
I have a point about that, but we'll come back to it. So go ahead and say what you're going to say.
My point with that, I don't enjoy it because I watch it as like, okay, this is just a movie that was made solely to get Leonardo an Oscar finally.
That is where I was going. So many people rallied. I mean, they were like Facebook, well, not Facebook, social media.
It's going crazy,
And who else did they do that for? I think they said after that happened they wanted to do it for Johnny Depp, if I recall. I don't know if they have done that.
Yeah.
But were there other people that people were just like, hey, we haven't given them an Oscar yet, and they like
there are Lifetime Achievement Awards. That's a big thing.
No, but this was, I specifically remember it. Like, why does he not have a Best Actor?
I know exactly what you're saying, and I remember that too. And I cannot think of a single other moment in film history when it's been like that big of an uproar of why doesn't Leonardo have
an Oscar.
And
I wonder why that happened.
Because at that point, he had been nominated like 8 times and didn't win for things that were so like...
Okay, well, all right. So I'm not a soap opera person, but Susan Lucci, who played, Erica Kane, she got nominated, I want to say a ridiculous, like almost 20 times. And she, like Best Actor in the series for the Emmys. Nominated. And then she did finally win. So I feel like at that point people were like, seriously? Are you ever going to let her win?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if the social media push was that big, but it was a similar thing. I recall.
It sounds like it, yeah. And that's pretty much what happened with Leonardo here. Part of me kind of feels like, and I don't necessarily think this is true because I do think Joaquin Phoenix like put his heart and soul into Joker and like was amazing in it. I mean, that's the best part of the movie. Like, to be honest, just out of what I saw, now I didn't see every movie this year, but just out of what I saw, I wouldn't initially think that Joker should be nominated for Best Picture. But 100%, I think Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor is justified. And that's the best part of the movie. But there is part of me that's kind of like, the whole freaking world, ever since it came out, has been like, Joaquin Phoenix better get an Oscar nomination. And like, so is that why?
And that's interesting because he already has a Best Actor Oscar.
He already
it's not that.
But
it's just that they thought it was that good.
Thought it was that good. And people love Joker, like a lot. Like, it's a very, very... powerful is the word that comes to mind, but I think I'm saying that in the sense of like it has gotten a lot of people like to rally behind it when it's kind of like a joke. Like when you think about it, like 3 years ago when Todd Phillips is making a Joker movie, it's like, you're making a Joker movie, why not make a Batman movie starring the Joker? And you realize because Todd Phillips didn't want to make a Joker movie, he wanted to make a movie about this character that and the society that he saw today, and the Joker was just a really good vessel for that, which it was. And now there's talks of a sequel, and Joaquin saying he would actually do it, which Joaquin Phoenix never does sequels, but he's saying that he would definitely do a Joker 2, which, like, great. I mean, good. Let's see it happen. In my opinion, the story wrapped up perfectly. I don't want to see it more, but too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
Could be. That happens often, obviously,
in
sequels. All right, well, let's move on. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which you have spoken about and I have not seen.
Oh, yeah. I love that movie.
So,
I think it's a
alternate
great
reality.
Movie. It's an alternate reality where basically instead of Sharon Tate dying, the the Charles Manson cult got their asses kicked by Brad Pitt.
And Brad Pitt played what kind of character?
He played a stunt double for Leonardo DiCaprio. So Leonardo DiCaprio played an actor in Hollywood at this time in like the 70s where like it was all kind of like the idea of like, is the movie star dying? And like, well, obviously not, because here we are having this conversation about Joaquin Phoenix, but he's playing this idea, and he was playing this sort of washed up actor who was getting into spaghetti westerns at that time of that, when like, very interesting concept and movie going on there. So that's Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's about his sort of like rise and fall of and rise again of the actor he was playing, and Brad Pitt playing his stunt double, who lives a really crappy life compared to Leonardo DiCaprio. Like lives in a trailer and drives a really crappy car compared to his best friend and the actor Leonardo, who lives like in a mansion and everything like that. But they're best friends despite it all, and Brad Pitt kind of sort of takes crap from him a lot. Really interesting relationship there, but it's not like, it's pretty lighthearted though, and that part of the movie they don't really delve into it. Brad Pitt's easygoing about it, you know, but Brad Pitt plays his stunt double, who's just like, you know, badass, who's like, he's a stunt double for Leonardo. And basically, the movie's just building up to they live next door to Sharon Tate. And here comes the Charles Manson cult to come kill Sharon Tate. But on their way, they bump into Brad Pitt, who's hanging out at Leonardo DiCaprio's house. And Brad Pitt's like high. He had taken acid. He had just like taken acid, and he's like, hey. And they like are like, we're gonna kill you too. And he's like, what? And then he just kills them. Like it's hilarious actually.
How many of them?
Like 5 or something like that.
So he had a gun?
He had a dog.
Had a dog?
That like, he was like, get him. And then he was just like a really good fighter. There's actually a scene earlier in the movie that sort of sets us up. And when I first saw the scene, I was like, what the frick? But now I get it. There's a scene where he gets in a fight with Bruce Lee, and he destroys Bruce Lee.
Okay, no, that is in the alternate universe.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But at the time, when I was kind of like seeing it, I was like, no, there's no way he'd ever beat Bruce Lee. But now I understand that scene is in there to be like, he beat up Bruce Lee.
He can accomplish
these things. So he is the great. This is the coolest dude in the world.
Gotcha.
And he just like he just fit, like they come at him with knives, and he like grabs it, puts it on the side, and like slams their head in, and then. This whole time this is happening, there's Leonardo DiCaprio. I love this film. There's Leonardo DiCaprio in the backyard in his pool with his headphones on, like, and like one of the floating thing, completely unaware it's happening, until one of the Charles Manson guys like gets thrown through the window, and he's like, what the frick? And he like attacks him, so he gets up, and he was in this war film where he used a flamethrower, and he got to keep the flamethrower. Because at the time, they actually just built the flamethrower. They didn't have the special effects to like make it look like fire. So they had to actually build a flamethrower. And he got to keep the flamethrower. So he went into a shed, and he got the flamethrower, and he lit the Charles Manson cultist on fire.
Gotcha.
And burned him.
All right.
And then later, the cops show up, and they're just like, yeah, I was making margaritas, and these guys just showed up. And it was like, what? Like, it's so lighthearted take on it, this whole part of the movie. And I interpret it as just a big F-U to the Charles Manson game that killed Sharon Tate, because Sharon Tate was like the sweetheart of Hollywood, right? So that's just sort of how I interpret it. And it's a really funny, like, lighthearted thing. It's kind of making fun of this really dark thing that happened. And then Sharon Tate gets to live because Brad Pitt exists, which is just hilarious to me. I love the concept of the movie.
Not to overanalyze it, but did some famous actor live next to Sharon Tate?
I have no idea.
Because I'd be interested to know if it's based on anything at all. Like if there might be some kind of jab or whatever at the rich guy who was just in his pool listening to his music when Sharon Tate died.
Who could have done something.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. But here's the thing that's weird about it, because from my understanding of the real story, and this may not be true, I don't know, but what I've always heard and seen in documentaries is that it was an accident that Sharon Tate died. That the Charles Manson cult just went to the Hollywood Hills and picked a rich-looking house, and it happened to be Sharon Tate. But in the movie, they are like, we're going to go kill Sharon Tate. Mm-hmm. We're going to kill Sharon... Charles Manson shows up to their house earlier and is like to scope it out. Like, we're going to kill Sharon Tate. And on the way up the hill, they bump into Brad Pitt and stuff like that.
I know nothing about Sharon Tate, so she was in movies in real life.
Yes, so she was a real actress.
Well known,
She was kind of just starting out. She was in a Roman Polanski movie, who was a big deal director because she actually married Roman Polanski.
Okay.
So she got to be in that movie. She's played by Margot Robbie in this movie. She was not like the hugest deal, but she was just a light in Hollywood, like very young, sort of just starting out in her career actress, and it was cut short by the Charles Manson cult.
Interesting.
So that's an interesting. I like the movie. I think it deserves its nomination.
Okay.
What's next?
I believe you. Parasite. I've never even heard of.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that
Parasite.
either.
Let me click on it and see what it comes up with. I feel like I should know, but the names are I don't know what language, but it's like an Oriental type language that I don't recognize.
Interesting.
See all the people.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of Asian actors.
Yeah,
I'm not sure which
which
ethnicity. Yeah.
Let's see. It says greed and class discrimination threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. So I guess kind of a Romeo and Juliet, except that one's rich and one's poor. And so greed and class discrimination.
They stole your play.
No, that's Shakespeare.
I'm kidding.
So I've heard nothing about that one.
Yeah,
Let's
not
see.
sure.
The Irishman, my husband watched. It's long. I think that's like almost a miniseries type thing.
I have not seen it. I think it's just a film on Netflix.
I think it's really long.
I think
it's 3 hours and 30 minutes. So
that is very long.
Yeah, I heard from what I understand that it's a really good story, but wow, that's I wonder when they pick. There's not a time limit, I guess. What if you make a 10-hour documentary or whatever, 10-hour?
Yeah, at what point does it count as like something other? I guess if it's one thing that is like straight the whole time, but that there's the term feature length, which means there must be some sort of like parameter. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because
a 30-minute show wouldn't qualify.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So like, at what point does it?
Yeah.
You could take The Witcher, which is 8 episodes, so it's 8 hours long, and theoretically you could watch it as one big movie. Does that get a Best Picture nominations? Yeah. I wonder.
Or if there is a separate for that.
Right.
And also, Irishman was made by Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's Martin Scorsese, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so from my understanding nobody wanted to make it, so Martin Scorsese had this script and this idea, and Netflix picked it up, and Netflix produced it and made it. Which brings in a debate itself: should Netflix movies even be
and now considered? Amazon movies and YouTube movies.
YouTube, yeah. Should they even be considered if they're not in theaters? And that's really funny because Martin Scorsese had that whole thing about like, are the Marvel movies real cinema? Your movie wasn't even in cinemas, mister. So
that's a very good.
Is that cinema? Like, shut up.
Really good point. Okay, so we don't know a whole lot about the Irishman. I think the last man who was part of some gang is alive. Like, they went to the funeral of the second to last one. It's like, okay, now everybody's dead, but you got to tell us what happened. I think that's how the movie starts because I heard bits and pieces while it was on. So it's him thinking back to just whatever the whole craziness was, in his...
I want to watch it because I like Martin Scorsese, but at the same time this was coming out was when he made that comment, and I was like, screw you, Martin, and I'm going to boycott your movie, but no one...
No, he's got the clout, he's going to get...
Right, yeah, it was sort of just like, I'm not watching that freaking movie, but now I kind of want to... I'll go back and watch it. Martin Scorsese movies are really interesting because... they're really, really, really intense, almost to a point where it's uncomfortable, and I have to, like, watch it in spurts. Like, I can't watch The Departed all the way through, because it's just people getting shot in the head intensely every 5 seconds, which, like, there's a difference between an intense headshot and a headshot, you know what I'm saying? There's a certain, like, and that's what Martin Scorsese films are like, and they all kind of have that same tone, and I'm like, I cannot watch this. Oh my god, I just need, dude, I'm gonna have a freaking panic attack watching these movies. So that's why that's another reason I didn't watch Irishman. But I still like the movies usually for the most part. The Departed is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
When you finally got to see it,
it took me about a week to watch it. Yeah. Wow. But because I had to like watch it like 30. It was more like a couple days because I had to watch like 30 minutes at a time. I was like, oh my god,
that's enough. Reach your tolerance level,
right?
The threshold.
And even the characters are getting stressed out because they're. And I'm sure this isn't intentional, which is actually just great filmmaking because these characters are getting stressed out. They're on drugs. They're sweating, and you get the same feeling like, oh my god, because he's like an undercover cop. I don't know if you know about the department.
I don't know anything about it.
It's just about this guy who is an undercover cop, and he's like in the middle of this really like horrible criminal gang with bad people, and he has to like. He's a cop. He's a good guy, and he has to like deal with it and the things he has to do to like stay in there. But at the same time, there is a member of the gang who has infiltrated his way into the police station, and you're seeing this, and it's dramatic irony because we know, but the characters don't know. So we know that he's in danger, and he's in danger, and it's like this battle between like there's the undercover cop and the undercover agent on the like being foils to each other, and it's like, oh crap, who's gonna find out about what? And people are dying left and right, and then the undercover cop gets shot in the head. It's out of nowhere. It's like he's the main character. Boom, dead. And then you're like, holy crap, Matt Damon, who is the undercover agent, he won. Oh crap. But then at the end of the movie, freaking Mark Wahlberg shows up, who you kind of forgot about because he was a cop who was like, I think you're the criminal, and they're like, wow, how dare you call him out like that? You're fired. So he was fired or like put on leave, but now he put the puzzle pieces together, so he's sure. So he shows up at Matt Damon's house and shoots Matt Damon in the head and walks away, and it's like, woo, got him. Go. And Mark Wahlberg's the only one that doesn't die at the end of the movie. Like Mark Wahlberg's the only character who doesn't get shot in the head.
Wow.
I know.
That's some crazy.
Oh, at the same time, Matt Damon has a girlfriend who is a therapist. And you have Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, it's Leonardo DiCaprio plays the undercover cop, who he is seeing the therapist, and the therapist falls in love with him. So she's cheating on Matt Damon with Leonardo DiCaprio, and Matt Damon doesn't know about it. So there's this connection between them they don't even know about. They don't even know.
Okay,
you're like,
David,
oh my god,
David is riled up. Wow.
It's an intense freaking movie, dude.
I'm saying.
So that's why I didn't watch The Irishman.
I hear you. All right, so moving now to Little Women, to talk about a complete change of tone here. I don't know how many versions of this book. I mean, of this, how many movie versions of the book they have made is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But this is at least the third I've heard of. It's probably way more like the 10th. I mean, because it's such a popular story.
I have not seen it.
Ever?
But this,
like any version?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But this brings up an interesting point that I forgot I wanted to talk about. And do you have anything to say about Little Women?
No, I would like for you to talk about what you want to say.
There is some backlash because there are no female directors nominated for Best Director, including the director of Little Woman. But it's nominated for Best Film, so like, it's gotten some acknowledgement. Like no one's ignoring it, and there's always been backlash. There was backlash a couple years ago because there were no black men nominated for Best Actor, and it's constantly this drama between them. And I see this stuff going on, and as a film fan, I sit down and I think about it like this, and I think, and I really do think about this because I don't consider myself a sexist or a racist. There are like very talented people that I like, and I don't want to be on the wrong side of something, right? So I really do sit down and think about this for a long time. And what comes to mind is, so right now there are all these male directors that have been nominated for Best Director. None of them are women. In a way, now I know this isn't necessarily always the case, but in a way, by complaining that no women are nominated, you are implying that a woman should be nominated, which means that one of the men who was nominated should not be nominated.
I hear you.
But what if that man who was nominated, who will now no longer be nominated, actually directed a better film than the woman? Or was a better director than the woman who is now going to take that place? Yeah. But he's no longer nominated because they had to put a woman in the place.
I hear you.
And then the woman is only being nominated because she's a woman. That sounds sexist. And the only reason that woman director, who's probably pretty talented, the only reason she'd be getting acknowledgement is not because of her talents as a director,
they had to put a woman in there
but because they had to put a woman in there somewhere. as a woman director, wouldn't you feel a little slapped in the face if the only reason you're getting your nomination is because you're a woman?
It's such a tricky question, David, because
right.
I mean, prejudice is real across many different whatever. And so when there were hardly ever, or if ever at all, any black actors or actresses being nominated, I remember there was such a outcry. And then when they did nominate, I think it was 2 different black actors, and I don't remember the first black man to win. But it's like, well, did I just win because I was black? You know what I'm saying? Not to take anything away from anyone's talent, but at that point, because there was just so much media about it, and so it's the next time it was like, oh, well, we better take care of this, and, you know?
That brings up an interesting point. It sounds like the problem is only coming from the media who makes such a big deal out of it. And then I didn't think about that, because nobody would be saying, well, did I only win because I'm a woman or because I'm black? If it wasn't for the media making such a big deal out of it. Because then it really is taking away from, like, I'm sure if a woman were to win Best Director, they wouldn't want to talk about how she's, like, I would assume, unless she's of course the first, but it's like, hey, can I just be a Best Director? That's why the category is called Best Director and
not Best Male Director.
Not Best Male Director, and Best Female Director. And they could do that. You know, you could take. They have a Best Actor, Best Actress category.
That's true.
There have been many people. I think Chris Rock made a joke about it whenever he hosted. He was like, you can combine them.
Yes, you could.
Not when he hosted, but he made like a joke about it. Maybe it was Chris Rock. It was somebody else similar to Chris Rock. Maybe it was Dave Chappelle. I don't remember.
But the point is, an actor is an actor. And yes, you could say actor, actress, but still...
And you could combine them.
Yes, you could.
But then what happens when one year only males are nominated for the Best Actor? Then
or the other way.
Or the other way around. Right. But here's the thing, what happened. If the other way around happened, I don't think there'd be too much media outcry.
Well, that's an argument all the way around, because what if all of the actors who got nominated were black or Asian or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
I think at that point, if every single actor... If every single actor that got nominated was a minority, and let's say they were all black, then there would be wow, it's so diverse. No, that's not what diversity means.
I don't know.
Diversity does not... okay, so just for an example, when Black Panther came out, it's a movie that stars like 2 white actors. What people were saying was, the term used was, this is the most diverse movie ever made. The word diverse does not mean...
I've never heard that in relationship to Black Panther. I've never heard that.
I have.
I mean, I'm not saying that you haven't. Right. I was just like, that's a really interesting way to look at that.
Right. And
I hear you.
Or whenever like a film starring mostly Asians gets made, it's like, wow, we need these more diverse movies.
I think it's like in the realm of all movies, diversity in the filmmaking world, not the film itself being diverse, even though that's how it's being spoken. I think what it means is we're adding diversity to the culture, to the whole.
That's a good point. I think you're right. I think that's the proper interpretation.
But it is interesting if people call the movie cast itself or whatever, the movie itself, diverse.
Yeah,
interesting.
And it's such a tricky subject to mess around, because
it is.
What is right, what is wrong? Who knows? Eventually, the ultimate goal would be that we don't have to talk about it at all anymore.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, and I remember way back, and this is a huge throwback, but when Ellen had her first TV show, she was taken off the air because she was in a scene with a friend telling the friend, I'm gay. And it was a comedy, and hilariously enough, she's at an airport leaning forward, and she actually spoke into a microphone that like broadcast I'm gay over the whole thing. But in interviews after, I don't even think it was in an interview, it might have been in the show itself, there was something about, well, you know, in 10 years it's not going to matter at all that I say I'm gay. I mean, I don't know what the big deal is now. And of course, she went through hell. She got fired, and it was just a horrible time for her. But when she was able to get her talk show and get back on the air as her fun, there's just nobody as fun and vibrant and just genuine as Ellen. And at this point, nobody cares that she's gay.
What people talk about is how funny she is.
She's just a good talk show host.
Right.
She's a woman she's a gay woman, but she is Ellen, and that's all that matters.
That's all that,
you know?
Right, yeah, and you have to go through that hell, because the only time...
But you shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to at all. No, you're right. But at the point we're at, where it's just at this horrible point in
I think it was much more horrible at the time.
Oh, yeah,
I'm saying? Sure. Like, things have moved forward,
right.
But it's like...
But this is such a tense time, politically and racially, that I cannot wait for this just to be in textbooks.
Well, but David, think back though. I'm born in 1965. We're talking about civil rights movement when I was born. So the amount of tension there has, in my lifetime, has completely been different. I go from like separate schools. You know?
I know, you're right, and that's actually really incredible. And I think a lot of times people lose perspective on that.
Right.
And at what point? And I guess there's still work to be done.
Oh, absolutely there is.
But eventually there has to get to a point where, what's it, like the same way that Ellen, like you went through the growing pains and the all the BS, but now you're just at a point where you don't have to talk about it anymore. It doesn't get brought up unless something actually relative to her being gay gets brought up. As far as what I can see.
I understand.
From my
of course there are still people who are completely anti everything, so they boycott Ellen now, and even still, and
they're changing the world. Good job. You really made a difference.
Well, and Ellen has, and they.
Yes, I know.
There's nothing wrong with their belief. You know what I'm saying? Unless what they do hurts other people, because we got to be careful on that side too. Who are we to say that you're wrong?
Right. You can't. Yeah, and you're right. I think about that too, where it's like, you don't want to be a hypocrite.
Yes.
And that's a problem that I see a lot of times when this sort of question gets brought up, is people being sort of hypocritical and fighting hate with hate, while, like, I'm sure you would agree that the only way that people... the reason that Ellen is now so popular is because Ellen doesn't go on her talk show and every single person who's like boycotts her, she doesn't punch them all in the face.
Right, or try to convert every person to be...
Because she is the bigger person.
Right.
She is the bigger person.
Point. Yes.
And that puts her on a higher ground. And maybe at the time it seems like it's not going to pay off, but over time it does. It does pay off to just be the bigger person and to not... hit negativity with more negativity.
To stay positive.
Which Ellen is the queen of doing.
Yes.
I've heard her story. Her girlfriend who died in a car crash, where it all started, and she was angry at God, so she wrote a letter to God, and that became her first stand-up act. So Ellen, that's what did we originally ask?
Little Women.
Little Women. I guess it's kind of...
we'll bring it back full circle there. So Little Women, I'll just say, is a phenomenally written novel. It's just such a sweet story, and there's so much in it, and it's nice to look at it and how much times have changed for women. But one of the things about this movie is the cast. Meryl Streep, once again, in an Oscar nominated movie, she plays not Marmee, which is interesting to me. The lady who plays Marmee, which is mother, that's just, they call her Marmee for some weird reason, is a very young actress that I'm like going, wow, she's the mom. So that shows my age. But then we have my mind just lost her, who played Hermione. What's her name?
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. And when you see Emma Watson in the trailer, or excuse me, when I saw Emma Watson in the trailer, my mind just went, that's Hermione. And I know she's a phenomenal actress. There's just something about her face and her demeanor, and I watched her in other films that she's been in, and I don't view the movie as Hermione playing a different role, but just that face, just like
sticks with you. I totally get that.
I thought that was an interesting, just from what I've seen of the previews and stuff.
That's interesting indeed that you feel that way about Emma Watson, because a lot of people I know have like definitely disassociated her with that, because she just is such a great actress, but like. I have plenty of people like that where, like, for a long time I just couldn't, for a long time you just can't get it out of your head. Like, Daniel Radcliffe is always going to be Harry Potter.
He is.
He's always going to be Harry Potter, but I think he's going to... Okay, so example, Zac Efron, right? For a long time, Zac Efron was stuck as Troy. But, but he's actually, turns out, the High School Musical guy is, like, a great actor. Like, one of the, like, most underrated actors, like, one of the most, like, brightest stars, who he's still relatively young, and he has a lot of things he's probably going to do, and turns out he's, like, an incredible actor. And so he is worked really freaking hard.
He had to fight
and
against
done a
stereotype.
lot of different movies. He had to play freaking Ted Bundy to get the people to stop calling him Troy Bolton.
Right.
And that's hilarious to me. But then it can be done.
Oh my God, that's the same initials. Troy Bolton,
Ted Bundy. Have you seen that movie?
Amelia watched it and just raved about it. But no,
I love it. I mean, it's not that great of a movie, but Zac Efron is
phenomenal
excellent.
in it. Yeah,
and I love Zac Efron, and I wanted Zac Efron to be in a Star Wars movie because I think he has the energy to do it. You know,
he still can. I mean, the whole Disney connection. What's going
to happen next? Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure they're going to make more Star Wars movies.
Oh, they will.
I look at a young Mark Hamill. I see Zac Efron. So.
This is an interesting thing. As a high school teacher, I, of course, Romeo and Juliet, as I've talked about forever. I had a really good friend of mine who was actually my high school counselor, and she was an English teacher before that. So as we stayed close, even through college and beyond, she knew I was teaching English, and she's like, I have these posters and things, from when I was a teacher. Do you want them? So she had an original from the original movie, Romeo and Juliet poster. So Leonard Whiting and, wow, my mind just totally lost Juliet's name. But anyway, there's this picture where the two faces are looking at each other. And everybody just would see that poster and, I mean, swoon. Like, oh, God, the guy who played Romeo. Even though the movie was made in 1968. I mean, the dude was just hot. Okay, so I had that poster up. But I was also teaching a theater class, well, a drama class is what I called it then. And we did High School Musical.
Oh, cool.
So I bought some posters and I hung up some of the, pictures from the movie. And we all were like, wait a minute. Because Zac Efron and Leonard Whiting looked so much alike. It was just phenomenal. It was crazy. So I don't know. It's not all the time. And it was just something about those pictures. Like when he was in High School Musical, the way his hair was cut and the way, the facial expression. It was just the craziest thing. Because we were just looking back like, wait a minute. It was just nuts. So,
I didn't know you did a High School Musical. Maybe you've told me this.
Well, when I taught at the freshman high, I don't remember if even all three of the High School Musicals had come out. Probably not. Probably just the first one. And those were not in theaters, by the way. 1 and 2 were not in theaters.
That's true. They were Disney Channel exclusives.
They were just big hits and stuff everywhere about them. So we watched the movie, and I let the students in my class choose anything, whether it was a song or a scene from the movie, and they acted it out. And that was just one of our projects that we did.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And so we actually filmed them and watched them. So that was really cool. Yeah,
I like that idea. Yeah. So what's next on the
Jojo Rabbit?
That is a very it's a movie. I've only seen tidbits, but it's about Hitler.
Okay.
Starring Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, as Hitler. And it's funny because he's actually, I think he's Jewish. I don't know.
Okay, let me read it to you. Jojo is a lonely German boy who discovers that his single mother is hiding a Jewish girl in their attic. Aided only by his imaginary friend. Okay, so the imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler. Jojo must confront his blind nationalism as World War II continues to rage on.
Interesting.
No, that was actually on. I have a friend that had the movie on at his house recently, and it was like you watched it and just bits and pieces. I was not really paying that much attention, but I felt like everything was very disjointed. So I think it was maybe from the point of view of someone who has the imaginary friend, and it was just very, very confusing.
I have friends who have seen it, and they have said it's like extremely bizarre, but they loved it, and they were going back to theaters like 3 times while it was still in theaters to see it because they loved it that much.
That's interesting.
So that is interesting. I kind of want to see that. I like wild, weird things.
I don't know. Sometimes if I have to work that hard to understand it, I'm just like, seriously, really?
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to watch that, man.
And the last one I've seen on Netflix, promos or whatever, it's The Marriage Story, and I don't.
That is a Netflix
original.
Is that 2 Netflix originals nominated for Best Picture?
Yes.
Wow, that's really cool. I wonder if Adam Driver or Scarlett Johansson got a Best Actor.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Yeah.
Actually, Adam did, and it was for that.
That's awesome. That is I love that because I love Adam Driver with all of my heart. He's the best part of the new Star Wars movies. Marriage Story seems really interesting. It's just about a marriage story. I've seen clips of it.
Right. So how is that Oscar worthy?
It's just really, it's that one seems to be more based on the actors, and I did not see the full movie myself, but I've seen clips of it, and it's some really great stuff.
Scarlett Johansson as well.
Oh wow, really? They're both great. Like the scenes that I've seen of them together when they're yelling at each other, and there's this really intense moment where Adam Driver's like, "Every day I wake up and I wish you were dead." It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's like I saw a great comment on that. It was like, when you're in high school theater, this is every single scene between a boy and a girl when they're acting. Because it's more college theater. It's where it's like, when a boy and a girl have to do a scene together, they always choose to do a scene where they get to yell at each other like that. But it was really great, and I want to see it. I just haven't come around to getting to see it yet. But I love Adam Driver. I think Adam Driver is an incredible actor. Last year he was nominated for BlacKkKlansman, so that's 2 years in a row. Again, I think he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for BlacKkKlansman.
Okay, so you do know that there are quite a few people who completely disagree with you, kind of a Keanu Reeves type.
Really?
Oh yeah.
People don't like Adam Driver?
Yeah.
Where they at? I'm gonna beat him up.
Well,
I love Adam.
I mean, as superficial as it is, I know some people think he has an odd look. Yeah. And there was that whole meme about him being like a square.
Right, yeah.
Right, he just
You're right,
he has an odd...
But I think it works. Like,
I mean, I don't feel that way. I just know that there are people who do.
I think he does have an odd look. And in fact, he actually has a phobia where he cannot stand to see himself. Like, he doesn't go to movie premieres. He cannot stand to watch himself perform. He refuses to do it. He was in an interview. And at the beginning of the interview, they played a clip from Marriage Story, and he got up and left. Because he told him, he's like, I don't like seeing myself. You don't play the clip. It's like an extreme phobia of his. That's really interesting.
That is interesting.
But
I have something to jump in real quick. One of my students sent me a little clip from when he went to the military, and then he had some kind of injury. I can't recall what happened to him. And he was discharged, and he decided that he wanted to go back to acting, which is what he originally wanted to do before he went to the military. And so now he has this whole program where he brings actors to the military. Do you know anything about that?
No.
So he has people who get together these things that can be performed very simply, really more like reading on a blank stage, but it's acting. And he takes them to the people. It was a TED Talk is what it was.
Oh, cool.
And he talked about his kind of journey to, I wanted to be an actor, but things weren't working out, so I went to the military, but then I had to get out of the military, so then I returned to acting. So he's still doing all of these things to help military people on top of all of this huge, fame that he's building for himself as an actor. It's just really a fascinating story.
It is really cool and fascinating.
So we'll have to look for that and look at it together.
We will check that out.
Yep.
But anyway, I love Adam Driver.
I think was there one more? No, that was it. So that's a lot of best picture nominations. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9.
I didn't know I did 9 because I only do 5 in the other categories.
Yeah, I thought they only do that too. Maybe there's some good movies this year.
Yeah. Let me just jump this in. Renee Zellweger, I have not seen Judy, but I've heard that when she played Judy Garland in this biopic that she was really, really good. And I would like to see that just because of course, Dorothy, that's who Judy Garland played.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
But she, of course, went on to do many, many other things and just had a lot of ups and downs. Just a really, like, Hollywood story, just horrible, awful situations that she got in. And also just about Renee Zellweger in general, she changed, or her looks changed because she was in like Bridget Jones' Diary and stuff, and then kind of had some time out of the public eye. And when she came back, people were like, what has she done to herself? How much plastic surgery did she have or whatever? And I have to honestly say, I had to look at her for a little minute. I'm like, is that really Renee Zellweger? And I mean, I found her, and now looking at these pictures, I see her. People age, and you have to let people. That's okay. I'll just throw this into him and just go off on all these tangents.
Please.
But women in Hollywood are finally able to be in films as older women because we're getting past this. Every role has to be played by a perky 20-year-old. I mean, we have so many more venues now. We got Netflix, and we have Julia Roberts on this Netflix series. And I'm not saying she's old, but she's older than most of the leading women used to look because she's showing some of her age because she's not 20 anymore. But the role fits her. She's a phenomenal actress. In fact, a lot of people that I've watched, you know, kind of come through from their like glory days when they were at their perfect body, you know, they've started to show some age, but they're having more opportunities because, like we said, Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, not to mention the other just movie, normal, what am I trying to say, companies just churning out all this content. So finally, you have women. See, on Broadway, women have always been able to be on Broadway because talent is talent. You can belt that song out. You know, you can play the role. Even if you're much older, you can play the younger role. And now we're finally getting to women having more equality on film. Because men, you know, they get those craggy lines and they, you know, they look aged and wizened and handsome.
It's cool.
It's cool. But women, boy,
so
women are the old hags and you can't have that. But
yeah,
I'm very happy.
In fact, I think all women should retire at 30 from acting.
Yeah, well, screw you, David.
I'm joking. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I am joking because oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. It's in the Terminator woman.
Right, Linda
Hamilton. Yeah, that new Terminator movie is god awful, but she's great. I like her.
I haven't seen her in a while, and I'll just have to be honest. When they showed her in the trailer, I went, whoa.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen her in so long.
Yeah. You know who looks nothing like her younger counterpart to me, and still, to this day, when I watch those movies, I can't see it? Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
I
agree.
In the new, thank you. Because in the new ones, I'm like, that's not Princess Leia. Like, I just cannot see it. I look at side-by-side pictures, and I still, like Harrison Ford, he looks a little weird, but, like, the chin's still there, at least. So it's like, okay, yeah.
There is some recognizable feature somewhere.
Right, there is something. And Carrie, it's like, not at all. And her daughter looks nothing like her either. It's very interesting to me. That's just a random thought I had.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that one.
Yeah. I like this. I like talking about
movies. All right, let's see some of the other nominations because I've been going through the different categories. So let's see. Supporting is the one I heard. So what a list of names. Tom Hanks, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins. How do you pick one of those?
Those are supporting?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What was Tom Hanks in that he got nominated for?
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Now that's crazy.
No, that is supporting. I guess the movie's kind of about the author. He was okay. I'm gonna guess what happened there. I'm guessing that they sort of assumed that it wasn't quite good enough for a best acting role,
maybe.
So they decided to push it for a best supporting because they were like, there's no way, because they would have a quote unquote better chance of getting a best supporting role. And I haven't seen the movie, so for all I know, he could kind of barely be in it.
No, I have seen it, and the movie is about Mr. Rogers.
Yeah,
it's about Mr. Rogers.
But isn't it about an
it's
author?
It's based on an article. And so the man who wrote the article and his family and backstory and all that, that is the story of the movie. So just to give you how it starts with an episode of Mr. Rogers, and he's opening little like tabs on like a board, and when he opens one picture, there's this face, and he's like, "This is my friend Joe," or whatever his name was. Let me tell you about him. And so then the story of how Mr. Rogers met this man kind of unfolds through the whole film. And then they end with that. And that's how my friend found his happiness or whatever. But I mean, when I tell you it's scene for scene, I don't think there are not many scenes he's not in. So if he's not the main actor in that, I don't know.
Then I'm guessing I think what I said is correct. Because
silly.
I hate that. Me too. A couple years ago when the Planet of the Apes movie came out, Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, it was the second one of this new franchise. Andy Serkis was really pushed for best supporting actor. He was very obviously the main actor, but they were kind of BSing it because they didn't think he had a chance of making it best actor, so they pushed it. And I guess that's what's happening here, which is a shame.
It is.
Because just from the stuff I've seen, I mean, he's perfect as Mr. Rogers. He is Mr. Rogers.
He did a phenomenal job.
Let me pitch something to you that I heard recently. A Superman movie starring Tom Hanks as an older Superman.
Well, from what I've seen of Tom Hanks, he can play any role. I mean, I love it because when he played real people like Mr. Rogers and what was the name of that pilot?
Captain Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, he did not look anything like these people. But I mean, when he played that role, you saw that person. It's like, wow.
So Tom Hanks is a is a king amongst men.
Yes. So if somebody wanted to cast him as any role, I would say,
you're all in.
Yeah.
I just had an interesting picture of like an older Superman who's like this like really great guy and it has to deal with struggle. I'm like, Tom, yeah. And they pitched Tom Hanks. And I'm like, yeah. So now, secretly in my heart, I want a Superman movie starring Tom Hanks.
I would be curious to know if he would want to do that. You know?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
Who knows what Tom wants?
Yeah, exactly.
He just wants to hang out and be a good guy.
He is that. All right, so Kathy Bates, I haven't heard from her in a while. These are Best Supporting Actress nominations. That was Richard Jewell, which I've not heard of.
We talked about Richard Jewell on the podcast. It's about the guy who was the bombing at the Olympics, and Richard Jewell was the security guard. Yeah,
I recall. Who did we talk about that with?
Seth.
Yes, I remember now.
Yeah.
All right, Margot Robbie.
She plays Harley Quinn.
She's in Bombshell.
So
that looks like an interesting movie.
Yeah, is that what she's nominated for?
Yes.
For Bombshell? Yeah, Margot Robbie's really hot. I mean, she's a great actress, and I think that she is definitely deserves to be nominated.
Okay, Scarlett Johansson here for
That
Jojo
was a
Rabbit.
joke. I actually think she's a great actress, and the only reason I'm going to see that Birds of Prey movie is because she looks great as Harley Quinn.
I hear you.
I'm sorry.
So Scarlett Johansson has a Best Actress and a Best Supporting Actress nomination.
Really?
Yeah. Has that ever happened before?
I have no idea. That's really fascinating. If she could win both.
That would be something.
That would be freaking awesome. I've never heard of that.
I haven't either.
Go Scarlett. Yeah. Jeez, what a great year for her.
Sarah.
And she has Black Widow coming out. That's the trailer. She has the Black Widow movie coming out.
Yeah, that was all over the game last night.
Right, Black Widow. And she also was in Avengers Endgame this year. Right. What a big year for ScarJo.
I'm telling you. Florence Pugh, I've never heard that name that I recall. She's nominated for Little Women, and Laura Dern for Marriage Story. Now, Laura Dern, I think, is the one who plays Marmee, the one in Little Women. So interesting that she's nominated for something else. Mm-hmm. Okay, animated. I don't know if we have to worry about these, but Toy Story 4 that you talked about before.
Yeah, that's interesting. What else is it? Just spit them out to me real quick.
Claws, Missing Link, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, and I Lost My Body.
I don't. All I saw was Toy Story, and all other one I've heard of is How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay, here's music score, and I will say Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker is in there.
Good.
Best.
That makes I think not Hans Zimmer. Oh my God, what's his name? John Williams.
Right.
John Williams has earned this is his 55th nomination.
Wow.
At the Oscars, which is.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
I know. I think he's the most nominated. I think this makes him the most nominated person.
He might get an award for that.
Of all time. I hope so. I mean, it was great.
All right. So I feel like we get to, the foreign language films that I don't know anything about. I don't have anything to talk about there. But we can wrap it up, David. Yeah. We were not sure what to talk about. So he said, hey, Academy Award nominations, and boom, an hour later.
Yeah. So I just want to end it up and wrap it up by saying this. Usually I don't give a crap about the Academy Awards anymore because I think they've lost a lot of their credibility in the past few years. Many critics would agree that it's sort of like what we were talking about earlier, where it's like you got to hit the checklist. It's almost like a political game of can you hit the checklist? But there were a lot of great movies this year, and I'm beyond fascinated to see. I believe it's in February, early February. I am actually very excited. I don't think I'll watch them.
But you'll be interested to see who wins.
But I cannot wait for the next morning when I check Twitter to see who wins.
And then for us to talk about it after.
And for us to talk about it. I am, please, Adam Driver.
Yes.
Please. I love you, and I want you to win an Oscar. You deserve it.
And we would love to interview you anytime.
Oh, yeah, Adam Driver, if you're in town.
Anytime.
Stop by Donna's house, and we'll interview you.
We'll turn on our iPhone.
Uh-huh. He looks like Keanu Reeves to me. I think he's the next Keanu Reeves.
I actually have thought that before.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, we need to wrap this up, so I'll let you end us today.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Creative Conversations with David and Donna. Please do not forget to like and subscribe and check out all of our other episodes. I have been David.
And Donna.
I'm always David, actually.
Me too. And also, I'm not me too. I'm always Donna is what I meant to say. Okay.
Stay creative.